Welcome back, y'all. This is video number 2. Today, we're going to be talking about On3's final rankings for the 2025 class. I'll tell you where I think that they got some things wrong at, and we'll talk about some of the politics and all of that good stuff. But please do us a very big favor before we get started. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, y'all, this will be our final commit breakdown for the 2025 class. And if it's your first time watching one of these videos on this channel, I'll tell you what you're looking at because there's a lot going on here. First and foremost, we do get all of our numbers directly from On3. And if you look to the right, you'll see that we signed 30 players in this class. 26 came from high school, 4 came from the transfer portal. We finished 10th nationally, which I think is a pretty solid finish. But we started this cycle off on pace to finish top 5. We lost a few players here and there. And, some of the players also took a bump with their ratings. So we finished 7th in the SEC, which I think just goes to show how strong of a conference this actually is. And we finished with a 62% blue chip ratio. The blue chip ratio is just a measurement of how many 4- and 5-star caliber players you have either in your class or on your roster compared to everybody else. You definitely want to be up over 50%. But for some of y'all stargazers that are seeing, hey, how do we measure up versus teams like Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Texas? Those teams typically stay around, mid to upper 80s or lower 90s. So we're kind of far from that. But I take all the ratings and rankings from all these sites with a grain of salt because there's a ton of politics that, plays into this. And we'll kind of talk about that as we go through. But if you look up under that box, you're going to see the On3 player ratings. And that is going to show you the range of a 4-star to a 5-star. Again, blue chip caliber players. And that will correlate directly to what we're looking at on the left. So on the left, we're going to see the offense and defense in each individual position group. Up under it, next to it, you're going to see how much that individual group rose or fell according to On3's final rankings compared to the previous ones. Okay, so if it's red, obviously, then that means that that group fell. If it's green, then that means that that group rose. And then under that in blue, you're going to see how many players we have signed in each group and what their average player rating is. So let's start off with quarterback. We all know that the only quarterback that we signed in this class was GMAC, and he dropped a full point. And that's just from the previous cycle. But if you look at how far he dropped to start this whole thing off, it's probably 2 or 3 points. Now, dropping a full point or going up a full point, that is a big move. And I'm sure that y'all can probably tell as you're looking through all this stuff. But that's a huge move. And we kind of talked about it once GMAC decided to come to Tennessee. They dropped him from being a very highly rated 5-star to a lower rated 5-star. Then they dropped him down to a 4-star. Now he's about a middle of the road 4-star. But make no mistake about it, y'all. GMAC is that dude. Okay, he's gonna come in, he's gonna ball. Hopefully, he plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he just proves everybody wrong. He shuts everybody up. But I think that he will end up doing that. So that is, I think a situation where there is some politics involved. Now, I don't think that it's just because he decided to come to Tennessee. I think that some of that will be because he didn't want to participate in a lot of the camps and stuff that they want these quarterbacks to, go out there and do and things like that. And when he did, it was like, they said, oh, well, he doesn't look that good doing it. But, we watched him in the Polynesian Bowl and he looked just fine out there compared to everybody else. So, again, take this stuff with a grain of salt. But let's talk about running backs. We have 3 currently signed that will include transfer portal. This entire thing will include the transfer portal players. That group only dropped. I mean, they barely dropped. I mean, that's almost not dropping at all. But their average is an 87.87, which is right up under that blue chip threshold. I love the freshman that we have coming in. I love the transfer portal player. I think that he can help kind of groom those guys, and he will be a player that will be utilized well within Tennessee's system. So I think that it's kind of a joke that guys like Justin Baker, guys like Morris are rated as low as they are. They should at least be 4-stars. But again, they're going to have their opportunity, I think, even this season to kind of prove some of these people wrong. Next at wide receiver, we signed 4, dropped about half a point. We're at 91.31 average, which is well within that blue chip threshold. I love that entire room. Okay. I think that we've got guys that are going to contribute in a major way. Some of them will have to do it this season. But talking about year 2, year 3, we got some guys that, I think that these people, so-called experts will look back on and say, man, how do we miss on this player? How do we miss on that player? Well, I think that you miss on them because there's too many people for you to be able to tell, hey, what's the difference between a player at, ranked at number 113 to a player that's ranked at number 112? You can't tell me for sure that you have a real true difference there. And just that little bit of a difference with their rankings, that's the difference, going from 32 to 33. That's the difference between a 5-star and a 4-star player. But let's keep this thing moving. So let's talk about tight ends. Huge jump right there, a full point. And that pretty much all came from Brame, who jumped up from, I think, 166 with On3 to like 62, 67, something like that. That is very, very impressive. And I think that a lot of that probably came from the Polynesian Bowl where he went out there, balled. But we told y'all just in breaking down his film, he can do those types of things. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those types of players. I think that Jack, the other tight end that we signed in this class, is very similar to Brain, but he might have, he might have actually dropped some with, with his player ratings and things like that. So last for the offense, we have the offensive line. We signed 5 in this class, dropped zero point 0.6 points, and the average right there is at 92.76. So that is the best unit on our entire offense, and that is a good thing. Like we want to bring in really good offensive linemen. Again, this is including the transfer portal players, but I think that we're going to be fine moving forward with our offensive line. I think that there's several guys there that are also underrated, but the offense's overall grade is a 91.13, and they dropped 0.24 from the previous cycle. Now let's talk about defense. We signed 4 cornerbacks, or we didn't sign 4, but we have 3 currently. The fourth one would be Onis Conan. I still have him in this one, even though he's probably not going to be in this class. We're about 95% certain of that, unless something crazy happens towards the end. But that group moved up zero point zero 0.08 points. Actually, if you look at our entire defense, everything moved up. Only one thing moved up with our offense. Now, one of my theories here, y'all, is that they're moving everyone that we're bringing in on defense up because they saw how well Tennessee's defense played last season. Offense took several steps back, except for tight end. Well, I guess if for this theory to be true, then they probably would have bumped the running backs up some as well because we all know what Dylan Sampson did last season. So maybe that's not completely true, but trust me when I tell you, there is a ton of politics involved, and it can be something as small as that. They might say, "Hey, this staff is really good at going out and finding players on defense. So if they like this kid, then he must be really good." Like they think like that. You know what I'm saying? Like that goes into how they're grading players out. But anyway, we have 4 cornerbacks right here with an average grade of an 88.54, just up under the blue chip threshold. I love a couple of the I love everybody inside of that room. And I think they're probably all a little bit underrated. But man, listen, guys like Tyler Redmond, and I think also maybe even Dylan Lewis, both of those guys should at least be, I would say 4 star. You know what I'm saying? They're going to get a lot of opportunities early on to play, and they can play in different spots. So it's kind of a joke to me to have 2 guys that play on the same team that won back-to-back state championships. That haven't really given up any big time plays that have shut down teams in the state of Georgia in the highest classification, some of the best players in the state of Georgia, but have also gone down to South Florida and shut down some of those guys. I mean, how do you not bump them up? That is a joke to me. But let's keep this thing moving. Let's talk about the safeties. That group moved up 0.22 points. So we signed 2 inside of that class. That's a whole lot of 2s right there. But 87.9 is the average, just up under that blue chip threshold. I like both of the players here too. I think that they're very versatile. I really think that maybe Merritt could come in and help us as a true freshman, and maybe Walton could too. Either way, those players are underrated. I just a lot of times I get a little bit thrown off with the way that they're kind of breaking this stuff down with all these players. But either way, let's go on to linebacker. Okay, so that group moved up 0.28 points. We have 4 signed in that class with an average player rating of a 90.21. I can tell you guys right here, right now, Jaden Pilati started off as a 5 star. He should still be a 5 star. And actually, On3 has him just with their own individual rankings. They have him as a 3 star, which is a joke. Okay, so he starts off. He's going to UGA. They have him as a 5 star. Have him as one of the best linebackers in this entire class. Then he starts to flirt around with Florida State. They start to drop him some. Starts to flirt around with Tennessee. They drop him down a lot. Flirting with USC. So he kind of went back and forth. I don't know how much that played into it, but I do think that they have a tendency, like we just talked about. If you're going to a team, if you're going to a staff that has put a good product on the field, that's had some really good teams, then they will kind of give you a bump. They'll kind of praise you for going to one of those schools as opposed to coming to a school like Tennessee, which again, you would think that after our linebackers played so well last season that, maybe they could give us the benefit of the doubt and maybe bump them up some. Either way, that right there is a joke. I think that group could easily be at a 91, maybe even at like a 92, if it wasn't for Jaden being bumped down so low. But either way, we know that that room is loaded. We know that Jaden is going to be a baller. So let's keep this thing moving. Let's look at our tackles. Moved up about zero point 0.1 points. We have 3 signed in that class, and actually, Mr. Isaiah Campbell did get his 5th star. Now, we talked about it before that he was already, just looking at his player rating, he was within that threshold to be a 5 star. But like we talked about, If you're not within that top 32, then they don't make you a 5 star. So it's like little stupid stuff like that. But he definitely deserved his 5th star. I love that tackle room. And he's a player that could play, I think, strong side in too. So very, very versatile. And he's going to see the field for sure. I think he's going to make some big plays for us this season. Looking forward to that. I think that there's a few players that we could talk about on offense and defense that will show up in a very, very major way in 2025. Now, let's talk about the last group right here, the edge rushers. We signed two. I think that maybe both of those guys could end up playing strong side in, but really both of them could also play Leo. So two very versatile ends. Love their game, love their makeup, all that type of stuff. And that group moved up 0.7 points, and their average is a 92.41. Very, very high. Actually, that's the highest on our defense, and it's the second highest on the entire team. So as we love to do whenever we, do these types of breakdowns and things like that, if you're looking at both, the offense and defense, you're going to see that most of the talent is within our front seven. That's where you want it at. Front seven and then quarterback. Okay. Everything else, you can kind of, mix and match and kind of fill it in. So that's what Tennessee's doing. And also, Tennessee's defense finished with an average rating of a 90.66. That's up zero point 0.4 points from the previous time that we looked at this stuff. So I love the way that this class is built. I think that we did finish strong. And hey, man, there's several players in here that should feel slighted, that should be playing with a chip on their shoulder. And hopefully they're going to be out to make some of these so-called experts look really, really stupid. But that's pretty much it for me. I just wanted to kind of get this information out there for y'all so that we have a good understanding of how much, the movement was and all that type of stuff, how the class looks from top to bottom. I think this is going to be a very, very good one, the best one that we've signed yet. So leave your thoughts with me down in the comment section. And as always, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.